Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's video from Delhi Sustainable Farms. This week we're doing something a little bit different, and I'm going to show you how we put together a recipe of ours that you can find on our website, and it deals with making a soup since the weather's starting to get a little bit colder now. So I'm going to kind of go through the step-by-step quick instructions to show you how quick you can put this together in the morning before you go to work, and then you can come back home and enjoy a nice hot soup in the evening. So this recipe is Mexican street corn and chicken chili. So we start the recipe off using our chicken, of course. You could easily use some soup bones, chicken soup bones, that you can get from us, or you could probably use a package of chicken breasts as well. 4 chicken breasts come in a package. You could probably only use half of them the night before, just pan-sear your chicken breast or do whatever other recipes with your chicken breast. But it would probably be either 1 package of soup bones or 2 chicken breasts. You could probably also use legs and thighs as well, but haven't experimented with that. So the first thing we do is put our chicken bones in there. And with the chicken bones, I get them out of the freezer the night before and put them in the refrigerator. I want them to still be kind of frozen, but I still want them to be a little bit defrosted so it doesn't take as long to cook. If you have them completely defrosted, the bones usually then kind of fall apart and makes it a little bit tricky and when you are at the end stages of your soup and you're fishing out all kinds of bones out of your soup. So usually the carcasses will stay a little bit more together if you leave them a little bit frozen in the morning. Next, we put some garlic in. I use regular just minced garlic out of a jar, obviously, because it's a little bit quicker. I don't have to take the time to cut up the garlic. It's simply just convenience at this point on that type of garlic, but certainly using regular fresh cut garlic would probably be a little bit tastier as well. Then we're going to start putting in our corn, beans, and chilies. So this recipe has 2 cans of just regular cream corn. Nothing special about the cream corn. So you just dump it in then on top of your chicken breast, or your chicken breasts, or your bones. For me today it's bones. You don't have to get everything out. So there's 2 cans of that, which is more or less kind of the base of this soup. And I'm not giving direct, exact amounts or anything. I'm not trying to make this a cooking show, but just kind of show you how quick you can take some of our products and make them into something delicious. The next we have just regular you can do 2 different ways. The recipe calls for fire roasted corn, but if you can't find that, which sometimes I struggle to find that as well, you can just use a regular can of just regular corn. And I leave the liquid in it to kind of help provide more liquid for the soup itself. But you can use your discretion, and if you don't want it, you don't put it in there. Then we have a can of black beans. The black beans I usually do kind of drain their liquid off and rinse a little bit, but again, I don't spend too much time worrying to get my black beans clean. And then we have a little jar of fire roasted green chilies. Again, if you can't find that fire roasted part, just regular green chilies would work just well. So all this stuff is usually easily found at a grocery store. So hopefully all of the products you should have. Next comes then our spices. So, and yes, my bottle of paprika is extremely large, but I go through quite a bit of it throughout making different spices and rubs for chickens and beef. So we have a ½ teaspoon, which is not very much. So I have a whole teaspoon here. So I'm just kind of making a rough estimate of half of it and kind of sprinkle that over the top of it. We have 2 teaspoons of chili powder. And then 1 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. So again, I don't get that precise on things, so I kind of just put in one and a little bit of scoop of another. If it's a little bit more, you'll have a little extra taste of cumin, which is not really any big deal. So that's pretty much the soup itself. You also have to put in a cup of chicken broth. You can use, again, our soup bones and make your own broth, or you can buy broth. It can be out of a can, it can be the bouillon cubes, whatever, just kind of to add a little bit more liquid into your soup. So that's all it takes to put the soup together in the morning. I did have about 5 minutes of prep time before I started filming, just opening up cans, draining the black beans. But otherwise, this recipe literally takes 10 minutes max in the morning. So we will come back this evening in a few minutes on this video, and I'll show you how you take the soup bones out and get the meat off of them, kind of then discard the soup bones. So stay tuned, and we'll finish up this recipe a little bit later. I did forget to mention though, before we finish up the recipe, I turned the crock pot on low for about 8 hours, and then my crock pot has a feature that it goes into the warm setting, so that way I don't have to worry about it getting cold after that 8 hours. So then just turn it on low for 8 hours, and now we will see you in a little bit, and we'll show you getting the meat off the chicken bones. Ready? So now it's time to finish up the soup. As you can see, I've already pulled out the chicken bones. Unfortunately, work was a little bit longer today, and so I wasn't able to pull them out before they got too overly done, so I had to go do a little bit of fishing to make sure all the bones got out. And so I have already done that. I will show you the process of pulling all the meat off the chicken bones, and then I'll show you how much meat you actually get off of our chicken soup bones, and then we'll put everything back together, and then we'll eat. So to finish off, while I am shredding the chicken, I always like to put my cheese in to make sure it gets melted, because why would I wait until the end to melt my cheese? So again, it's a whole bag of cheese because it's 2 cups, and this bag is perfectly measured for 2 cups. So you just dump the whole bag in. And then it's also 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, or half and half. I assume you can probably use milk too if you're trying to cut back on your fat content as well. So then that goes in, because since this is a chowder, it has a dairy base to it as well. So we'll let all of this get incorporated, and then I will start shredding up the chicken. So as you can see, I put the chicken carcasses on a baking sheet. Usually the bigger the sheet, the better, because then you can have more room to kind of push your meat off to the side and keep more bones on the other side. And as you pick meat off the bones, I usually try to break them into smaller pieces so I don't have to do it again or go through the meat again after I have already touched it once. So the less you handle it, the quicker things go. This process did take about 10 to 15 minutes, so we did cut some video out just to kind of make the video not be as long. But this is probably the longest process of the entire soup making with chicken bones specifically. This is where using chicken breasts you'd be able to cut down quite a bit of time, because you could pull the breasts out and then shred them up real quick and then put them right back into your soup. The hardest part is making sure you don't have any little bones left. The neck is especially challenging, which is what I'm dealing with here, because there's a lot of vertebrae. So now that I'm done getting all the chicken off of the soup bones, you can see that there's actually quite a bit of meat that is left on those soup bones. Like I said earlier in the video, you could also use chicken breasts if you didn't want to have to deal with that process of taking the bones off. But I feel like the flavor is more enhanced, and you have more chicken flavor when you do have those bones actually in your soup. And that bone marrow then can get into the soup that you're making. So, like I said, that chicken soup bone package was 2.9 pounds, and I say I easily got off 2 pounds of meat. So now the last step into making this soup is to put all the chicken into the crock pot, stir it up, and then it's ready to enjoy. So that's the last process. Now I'll give it a stir, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. thanks for watching this week's video. If you like watching us cook different products we have, be sure to let us know and we'll continue doing it. Other things we have are products with our beef, such as hamburgers, steaks, roasts, what we do with our chicken legs and thighs, whole chickens, just kind of give you an idea of what we have planned. So, like I said, subscribe below if you like our videos. Comment below if you have any ideas or questions about future videos. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.